Oh, with the spotted cow flex. That is just so fun. And,
yeah.
But did you get permission from your dad
back.
to take that?
Yeah. Did he,
What do you think I got
hold
this?
up, did he
is
sell
from
that to
him.
you?
No, he did this as a nice gesture to
That's
me.
serious love right there.
He was just like, hey, I got a surprise for you. Because I helped unload everything. And I was kind of like, you saw how much was there? That took an hour to unload.
Just remember, Wally's worth $3 an hour.
That's all it takes. It doesn't even have to be a dollar amount. You give me something like spotted cow, I'm in.
Yeah, exactly. Spotted cow. Again, it sells itself. And welcome back to another episode of Loss of Down, brought to you by Abby Turner Creative, your one-stop shop marketing agency specializing in branding, high-end photography, fashion, and more, especially if you're our age where it feels like there's a wedding, college graduation, engagements, baby pictures, you name it, they're happening every weekend. Abby Turner Creative is the only way to go. Check her out for yourself at abbyturnerphoto.com. That's Abby, A-B-B-E-Y, or on her Instagram, Saudade and Sapphire. Again, abbyturnerphoto.com. Boys, welcome back. We got divisional picks this week. Got our feet wet with preseason football. But before we get there, how was everyone's weekend?
It was busy, man. I drove down with a bunch of the Hoffner buddies, group of friends of mine out here in Pittsburgh for a bachelor party, surprise, surprise. And it was one of those things where it was an amazing trip, but I'm feeling the effects to this day. I'll give you a sneak peek. I've not been this sunburned in a long time. And when I say no aloe vera was around, I was peeling, and I'm sitting in a van with a bunch of my buddies next to me like this for 7-8 hours. So I'm feeling the effects today. But otherwise, it was a fantastic weekend. First time I went tubing on the lake in forever. It felt like bathwater because it was 100 some odd degrees down there in your country there, Steven. So
where did you end up going again?
It was, oh my goodness. It was by Lake Norman. I don't know if you know Lake Norman, but.
Charlotte. Okay. Charlotte, rep up, baby.
Yes, it was Charlotte. Attaboy, Steven. You know exactly what I'm talking about. Yeah, so great time to celebrate Joey, and happy to be back and talking a little football with you guys. How about you guys?
Standard weekend for me, man. I don't know. I got nothing to report back. That means it's a great weekend for me.
Hell yeah, it is. Steven?
I kept it low key. I was chilling. Kylie was out of town here this weekend, so this was the opportunity to do what I guess I do all the time, with Kylie not here. Lounge around with my underwear, played a little video games, hung out with the pup. I too got a little bit too sunburnt, so I was supposed to do some yard work, and I just didn't get around to it because nothing is worse than being outside, sweating. You can feel the sun just beating through the shirt and just
isn't it crazy? It cuts through so easy.
Oh, like butter. It reminded me one time living in Carolina, I got it so bad. I got sunburnt so bad I was basically purple. But this was when I was also working at a pizzeria. So middle of summer, 100 plus degrees out, working, sweating as a delivery driver, and there was no AC. So I'm just every 10 minutes you can find me in the walk-in cooler, just fanning myself. Dude, it was brutal.
Yeah, it's one of those, even the cold showers, it doesn't get cold enough, and you're wasting your time because you're standing there for 30 minutes, and it doesn't do you any good because the second you turn the water off, it's twice as bad almost because you got used to the cold. So
and now you have to dry, and it's a pat dry, and oh man.
It's such a first world, not a big deal problem, but I bitch all the time. So I've been bitching for 72 hours, and I mean a firm bitch.
That's on
non-stop.
You. You got to bring sunscreen, especially if you're going down to that Carolina sun. You're not used to it.
Well, that's what's crazy. I guess you can see a little on the arm. I have stripes because the sun spray I had was still spraying, but it was just the aerosol. It wasn't the actual I almost said detergent, but you know what I mean. Yeah. So there's a stripe across my chest randomly, and it doesn't go elsewhere. It's great. I'm doing really well.
Don't worry,
Love you,
Wally.
boys.
Like I said, football's back. We dipped our toes in some preseason ball. Today we're going to have our AFC and NFC East previews. Before we want to dive into that, we did want to kind of combine the NFL with... Wait, do you hear that?
What the fuck is that?
It's pretty early, it feels like, right?
Wow, that is nuts. 5 minutes?
5 minutes in, baby. Hey, that's usually all we need before the sirens. We start hearing the sirens. We got a little NFL news. We got some rapid fire here. The rapid fire segment. It was preseason week 1, so we don't want to have. We want to get some takeaways, maybe some overhypes, maybe some things that stuck out to you. So we collectively had taken a few each here that we want to talk about. Wally, I'll toss it to you. Sunburnt man of the hour, more so than me, so I appreciate that. What were some of your takeaways from week 1 of the preseason?
Easy. Aiden O'Connell is the greatest quarterback of all time.
Why even
DTR?
tank? Just keep him.
Well, that's where I'm at. I'm like, hey, why are we even playing Himmy G? Because we have Aiden O'Connell. We have the real AOC. So AOC, greatest quarterback of all time. DTR, on the other hand, maybe number 2. David, look out. You don't have to have a sexual predator on your team in the future. You have DTR to win you a championship. Rookie quarterbacks outside of the 2 I just mentioned, though, a little bit slow of a start, but do not panic. It's preseason. Everybody loves to panic or put too much stock in. Ignore what I said about the greatest quarterback of all time. That part's true. Everything else is an overreaction. Deuce Vaughn with the Cowboys. Are we talking about a new Darren Sproles? Because it feels like we're talking about a new Darren Sproles.
And what's funny
Zeke's
is Darren
gone.
Sproles would tower over this man. That's how small he is.
That's true. Well, yeah, because I want to say Darren Sproles is like 5'8", 5'9".
Yeah,
This guy's
I'm
like
pretty
5'6".
Sure, yeah, I have to remember the league reference when he's in there when they talk about his height, it being a heightist. If you remember that episode from the league,
The heightest, yeah, absolutely. You can't be like the sub-6 kings.
Yep.
Like he's a sub-6 king, you know. And then that was just leading into the final thing. People on both spectrums. When you get something like David and I, we have that in Steven too, the George Pickens bet. You see that crazy catch over the middle and scored a touchdown. Don't overreact in the positive way. But when you see the guys that also go like 6 of 10, have a rough day, don't also overreact in a negative way. It's preseason. They're calling plays knowing it's the preseason. It's fake football. It makes us happy, but don't get too excited.
David,
What about you guys?
Similar, but more focused on the Browns because that's where obviously my heart lies.
That's fair.
Honestly, you know what kind of surprised
watching
me?
the Panthers Jets?
No, but you know what kind of surprised me is Stetson Bennett's 10 years of college experience appeared to pay off in the NFL, and he actually played pretty well in the preseason. While you mentioned it, DTR, he's fun and interesting. I'm not sold. I mean, he's a 5th round quarterback selection. I'm not sold. It's the preseason, but he was fun to watch in his, 15 plays or something like that. I think it was like 3 or 4 drives, but, Cade York trying to kill me by slowly increasing my blood pressure throughout the game.
You should worry about kickers. That's what I should have said, David. Kickers this time of year.
Yeah.
If you're not making kicks in preseason,
there's no
panic
pressure.
time.
There's no pressure, and you're missing 40-yarders. Like, man,
Brett Maher.
God.
Tell me you guys saw that guy. That poor bastard. He's in hell right now.
I can't stop thinking about Cade York botching 2 kicks in this preseason already, and there's literally no pressure. Like, you should be able to kick with your opposite foot in the preseason and still make it. I can't. But ultimately, for all those out there who are overreacting, just remember preseason is not about wins. It's just about evaluating your depth. That's really all it is, trying out new plays and evaluating your depth. I don't care what anyone does in the preseason. Outside of like your second, outside of your second and third guy, we don't talk about kickers. I'm ready to get rid of kicking altogether. Just make touchdowns 7 points.
Browns fans should be ready to get rid of kickers. That makes sense. Since
Dude,
Phil
they all
Dawson,
leave
it's
and they
been a
get better
dark
too.
period.
That's the worst part. Like Zane Gonzalez was great for like 2 seasons after leaving the Browns. You know, I just like all these kickers get better after leaving, and I know that should make me want to hold on to York more. But like at the same time, how do you miss preseason 40-yarders when there's no pressure? Like, I can't.
Hey, Cade York might be the next Mason Crosby
Okay.
up there in Green Bay. How about you, Steven? What are your takeaways?
Cade York did exactly what he needed to do. He sunk the game-winning field goal against Baker last year. So that's really all we needed Cade York to do. Right
I was going
now.
to say that was the highlight of the career.
That's probably why he's still on the roster.
Yeah, that might buy him another half season to.
Dude, it was halfway up the damn uprights from 58 yards. How did that? It was just like he's the next Evan McPherson, and instead he just doesn't make kicks anymore.
It's the Cleveland Browns project, baby. It's something we got some psychology. Something is going on in there.
It's the helmet. There's too much orange. Maybe it makes you veer left or right.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Maybe he'll start bombing them when he gets the all whites on, David. You never know. I am here to overreact on a couple different things. So Wally isn't. David really isn't outside of his Browns. I am here to kind of cover everything else. I think that it's kind of alarming that Carolina didn't score a single point in their preseason. I don't care if it's preseason. Frank Reich to not score a single point and to put the drive that Bryce Young had, even though he was getting hit. He got hit 3 times in 3 drives. It just didn't look good in Carolina. Jordan Love, I don't talk about going 6 for 10. Don't want to overreact like Wally just said. Well, Jordan Love went 7 for 10, and I'm overreacting because there was a couple passes that he definitely missed. There was a wide open tight end pass that he missed on a 3rd down on his first drive. His touchdown was okay. I thought it could have been better, but all in all, I like the rookie Sean Clifford's performance a little bit better. He did have 2 interceptions, one resulting in a pick 6. One really wasn't his fault, but the dude was still out there slinging. I mean, I saw a couple, he threaded the needle a couple times right after throwing an interception, so I was very impressed by him. So hopefully he'll be able to stay on Green Bay's roster. Trey Lance is looking
Quick question,
horrible.
Steven.
Yeah.
Well, before we get to Trey Lance, I wanted to ask you, because I saw highlights. I didn't see the actual game. I heard similar things to what you're saying from Bengals fans, that Clifford had some dimes, but then it's like Big Ten fans out there, there's just some throws. You're just like, what the fuck is this guy doing?
Yeah, right. And I don't think that his 2 interceptions would be in that classification, right? I think I would have to go back again. One, I think I got tipped. That led to the pick 6. One, it was just a rookie throwing the ball. But the thing that sticks out is he just kept going out there and just slinging it, not giving a rat's ass if it ends up getting picked. And resulted in at least another interception, but a couple nice passes that went with a little bit of yak after. So there's one I caught. I'm like, oh. And what you have to put with this is, it's a rookie. It's a 4th round. You're playing with a lot of those 2nd, 3rd stringers, but okay. But that's a step when you're looking at preseason. Okay. He's just a slightly above the average players that he's playing against. So, okay, he deserves to at least be here at minimum practice squad or at least a 3rd stringer right now, right? So that's what we're looking for. And I liked him a lot. But, yeah, to your point, he's a Cincinnati kid by heart. He went to high school there, I believe, because that's all they would talk about. Oh, it's a homecoming for this.
It's that time of year.
Yeah, then Green Bay had a cornerback who had a really good game, also from the Cincinnati area. So that's all they kept talking about. So, no, all in all, yeah, I thought it was really impressive what he did. And he looked different than Jordan Love. And I was like, wow. He made more passes. Granted, had a bigger sample size than Jordan Love. That kind of blew me away a little bit, to be honest.
Look at all 3 of us having late rookies, mind you, quarterbacks that we felt good. Clap it up.
It's the new generation, baby.
Look at us.
The new generation.
We're back.
Well, keeping on a couple other things.
So
the Trey Lance officially is going to he's officially in the big bust territory, right? If you didn't see that outrageous touchdown that the Niners had that took a double doink off of DB hands just to get to the tight end in the end zone. Yeah, Wally.
So Raiders.
Did you watch that? Oh no, you're enjoying other things.
I have it taped. I rewatched it last night.
And then last thing is Sean Payton leaving Russ out there for 4 drives. That's going to equate to almost the full first half. That's bad. And Russ had a couple good throws, but then he had some bad throws that looked like Nathaniel Hackett was still running the ship over there.
Fuck the Broncos. They're going to be so bad. I can't wait till we get to AFC and NFC West.
But not worse than the Raiders.
Oh, look at you. Okay, now you're playing enemy when you're like, you know what, Wally? I don't know how I can pick the Raiders records because I don't want to make you feel good. But, okay.
Well, here's the thing. is that no one can hurt me. I had that entire
I can't wait for the
Bachelor
first text that says I'm in pain. Like, like it's gonna be week 2, and we're gonna lose to the Broncos, and you're gonna be like, I'm in pain.
Here's the difference. You say that, but think about it. I've had a quarterback I've believed in for 7 or 8 years. When's the last time that you've been around me that's like had an actual team I want to fail? Like, I want to see highlights here and there, but I want the Raiders to go 3-14 because I want Caleb Williams. I want to believe that's possible.
Here's what's going to happen, because this is how the Raiders make you feel the most pain, is they're going to go 7-10. They're going to sit in the middle of the fucking draft.
Yes.
And
they'll draft 9.
That's 100% what's going to happen.
They'll trade back.
They're going to take a tackle from... They're going to take a tackle from Western Texas. I'm already prepared.
It's going to be like 9 through 12 in the draft position. That's how they hurt you.
That's when I'll be in pain. When you get the Raiders to win a game to push us to like 4-10 in week 15, that's when you'll get the I'm in pain text.
I love it. Well, I know let's move over to a different positional group, or I guess not tackles. The guard, Zach Martin himself, him and the Cowboys do a reworking of his deal that's going to give him about just a little bit less than $9 million over the next 2 seasons, but it's going to put him at 18 or a little bit north mark over the next 2 years here in Dallas. So an obvious no-brainer. This is the last piece that you wanted walking out of your camp and not being a part of the team. Finally got it done, though.
It's hard to justify letting an all-pro not start week 1 for just not paying him the amount of money that I guess his tier is worth. I understand saying, hey, he signed a contract, but we've also seen very good teams in the last few years, or Super Bowl competitive teams, extend guys early when there's no need to keep everybody happy in the locker room. It keeps morale high, builds trust with the organization. So, yeah, it might be a little weird, but he went from 8th highest paid guard to 3rd, and Zach Martin's happy. The Cowboys are happy. Only Jerry Jones's heir of the throne is not happy that they lost $8 million.
I don't totally disagree. Like, good for him, but it's just such a pansy ass move in my opinion. Like, you're already a top paid guard, and you literally signed 2 years ago, and now you're asking for more, and it's just like, for me, it just sets a really bad precedence. Like, why shouldn't their other position groups now hold out and get paid, more? Because they can't. They
literally do every year.
I know. I still, that goes back to my point from like 3 weeks ago, where I don't understand how the Cowboys are in a position to pay everyone $100 million and somehow manage it. I know Jerry's rich, but I don't get it. Like, it just doesn't make sense to me.
My only counterpoint to that is that think about how often in the last few years you've seen basically, hey, if you don't take a pay cut, we're cutting you. Like, you won't get any of the guaranteed money, so take the $3 million less. Or, look at, I know it's a running back problem, but like Joe Mixon, for instance, he basically even said, I understood that I had to take a $3 million pay cut. Otherwise, not only am I not on a Super Bowl contender, I have no job. It is time, Steven. We have waited for 5 months for previews. It means that football is back. But before we get to that, we just want to remind you guys that this episode of Lost and Down is brought to you by Abby Turner Creative, your one-stop shop marketing agency specializing in branding, high-end photography, fashion, and more, especially if you're around our age where there's college graduations, engagements, weddings, baby pictures, you name it. It feels like they're happening every other weekend. Abby Turner Creative is the only way to go. Check her out for yourself at abbyturnerphoto.com. That's Abby, A-B-B-E-Y, or on our Instagram page at Sawdad and Sapphire. Again, abbyturnerphoto.com. Steven.
Yes.
Take her away, buddy.
So we're going to start off here. The AFC East, the Buffalo Bills are first up to bat. Last year they ended at 13-3. Their over-under total is set at 10.5 this year. So, David, I'll toss it over to you here first, bud. Buffalo, your boy Josh Allen, how are we thinking they're going to fare this year up there?
So over unders 10.5. I have them at 13-4. So over. And if we're being honest with the Bills,
Damn.
it's
It's a
right.
big over. It's a big over. 2.5.
Right, but
It's a
like
big
if we're
jump.
being honest with ourselves, like in the potential of their draft picks, you got Von Miller coming back, which I know it's off of a significant injury, but I still like Von Miller's Von Miller, even if he's only in some capacity. I don't think they lost much. I don't think they gained a whole lot, but like this is easily a 12-win team. I mean, they were 13-3 last year because of the Bengals debacle. But I mean, even in a revamped division, they're still a powerhouse. And even if they ride or die by Josh Allen, I still think they win 13 games again.
I just played devil's advocate, telling you it was a big jump. But David, I full-heartedly agree. I actually have them going 14-3, so I'm actually a game up on top of that. Just because I'd actually go a little bit. The only thing I disagree with what you said is that I actually think this team got better. Not only because Von Miller will be back, and I've said it nonstop this offseason. I feel like people have forgotten how good this team was the first 2 months of the last year. And they brought in Leonard Floyd, a player he played opposite of when they won those Super Bowl 2 years ago. 2 years. It's not been that long. Bring in guy that you wanted, David Puna Ford.
Puna Ford. I forgot about that shit.
Yeah, like they're just they're strong.
They did get better.
I mean, the only thing that scares me is that McDermott is kind of being asked a lot as a head coach to call plays on defense too in Leslie Frazier's absence this year.
But wasn't he a defensive coordinator before?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I mean. Like, it's not like that he's not done it before. It's just as a head coach, you have other things you're responsible for during the game. And it's just like you're overextending yourself a little. That's the only thing I could find to make me a little nervous. But here's the deal. They're going to win the division. I mean, if I have them 14-3, you better hope they win the division. But they're not only going to do that, they're going to host the AFC playoffs as long as they're in them. They will win home field. Steven.
Steven, I'm going to interrupt. The only thing I have to say is I think you have them going 6-0 in division, right, Wally?
Yes, I do.
So the only difference between you and me, realistically, is I have them losing at Miami and at Jets because I just think whoever's at home field advantage in that division is going to win those games.
And that's fair. I mean, 14-3 is one of those people at home. Like, we use this website called playoffpredictors.com. I recommend you do it as well for fun. But it's one of those you catch yourself looking at the end after what you've done, and you're just like, all right, that just tells me my subconscious is very high on the Bills, that I had them running roughshod through the AFC East. But, Steven, it's perfectly fitting that we just did the Abby Turner photo ad read, considering the fact that she is our resident Buffalo Bills fan. Where do you think her Buffalo Bills do this year? Are they above the 10.5?
All right. So I can't remember if this is the first one, but I think since we're doing the playoff or the season predictor, it can be. The first black sheep pick of the year. I'm taking the Buffalo Bills under on here. I think, and I have them right at the 10-win mark. Right. And it's not, to your point, right? I don't think that they overly got better this year. I don't think that they overly got worse, but it's like I think everyone in the division just got better, right? Everyone that we're gonna go over, you got Vic Fangio and in Miami, what New England did with their offense, and then obviously what New York has done with the addition of adding Dalvin Cook here just minutes before we even started recording. But they have just gone leaps and bounds above of what Buffalo's done. And yeah, sure, you got Dalton Kincaid here in the first round. You address some offensive line play in Osiris Torrance, who I really liked, but it's what everyone else has done. I just don't think that they can keep up. We saw what the year was without Brian Daboll. They're going to go into another year without their D coordinator and Leslie Frazier. So I just think, and to your point, there's going to be so much on Sean McDermott's plate. They don't have. And at least as I see it, they haven't done enough to take another leap. Or is this going to finally be the year? Outside of maybe Cincinnati, who else has really done less? Right? I feel like they're going to be like the Dallas Cowboys of of last year, right? Like they didn't really do anything in the offseason and they ended up being just right there, in the playoff hunt, in the playoff run a little bit. So give me Buffalo just at 10-7, slightly under losing by the hook.
My only counterpoint to you is, do you remember last year for the first 6 weeks of the season, we hyped the Buffalo Bills up as Super Bowl
Well, they
favorites?
were beating everybody by 20.
Right.
It felt like a college team.
But then they had a cliff fall off, right? And if you had asked me, I don't know, a week ago before I did before I really looked into all of this, right? I'd have thought they ended at 11 wins and they were a 13-win team. So I just they're a powerhouse. Even if the division got better, I don't know. Even in games where they looked bad, they still won. So
this is completely irrelevant because it's college. But do you remember when Jameis Winston was at Florida State? He had that amazing year. They won the national title, and he came back the next year. And they were undefeated going into the college football playoff, but they had 5 games that they should have lost, and it's just they found ways to win. So it almost scarred you the other way. Where David, it's like you said, it felt like they were worse than they were. So I don't know. It could go either way with how deep that AFC East is. We're just gonna have to kind of wait and see. But I do kind of like them.
You always have to account for a 1 to 2. At least one Josh Allen game and then another game of just crumbling down, right? My Josh Allen game happened to be week 5 in London against Jacksonville.
That's a good pick.
Either that or it could be... No, that's really only... they open up with Jets.
I picked that, by the way, too, Steven, so I'm with you, brother.
I overhyped the shit out of Jacksonville.
But Bengals, they have the Bengals, Eagles, Chargers, and the Chiefs this year. Right, which seems to be normal. That it doesn't even include both the games in Miami. I feel like there's a divisional game that they always choke. New York Jets last year. So there's always going to be these games that pop up. But I think this is the year. It just feels like, and it just might be my perspective on the quarterback play, right? But it feels like all the hype is going towards Buffalo when just Mahomes and Joe Burrow and now the emergence of Trevor Lawrence. It's like, Buffalo's still staying here. They've had the same hype the last 3-4 years, where now all these teams are almost jumping them, it feels like. And New York is right there with them within the division. So we spent a lot of time here on Buffalo. We're obviously keeping it in the division. Let's go all the way to not the furthest from it, maybe it is, Miami. Dolphins set at 9.5 for their total. And I am taking the over. My win total might be a little bit high. I just really love Vic Fangio, and I think that coach just being in that defense is going to just have a Dan Quinn-esque impact on them.
I like that.
Instantly, they're going to come in when, if we went to Dallas and that team that they didn't really have that many stars popping out, but all of a sudden, some players started popping when Dan Quinn came. So maybe Bradley Chubb emergence, except Vic Fangio's getting paired back up with his boys, so we'll see. I still like the offense and what they're doing. We know with Jalen Ramsey falling down, that's going to be rough. Let's see if they actually do make a late season push, because that window is a little bit shorter of recovery time for him than we were originally thinking. So give me Miami over the 9.5, because I have them going 12-5 this year, even without Jalen Ramsey for most of the season.
Same. I literally had the Dolphins going 12-5, even though Ramsey goes down. I think, and here's the big stipulation, right? The only way the Dolphins don't win 10 games is if Tua goes down like he did last year for many games, right? For 5-6 games, Tua's out, then I could see this being a 9-win team. But if Tua's healthy, let's play that perfect scenario where Tua's healthy for 17 games. I don't see how they aren't an 11+ win team. They're loaded everywhere. Even if Tua on a bad day could still hit Tyreek and Waddle somewhere on the field for a touchdown. There's a lot to love about this team, but it all hinges on Tua's health.
So my question to you is that, it's not even a question. Mike White is now their backup. It's not Skylar Thompson. It is not Teddy Bridgewater. The other way is even if Tua gets hurt, this is the best backup quarterback the Dolphins have had since Chad Pennington back in the day?
No
Like, this is a
sense.
Well, they had Chad Henne for a few years,
But
didn't they?
we're forgetting the year
fair.
of Fitzmagic and Tua back to back.
okay. No, that's
Boom.
actually fair, David. I'll take a step back. That's a good call. But my point more or less is Mike White is like a high end backup. So even if Tua got hurt, it's like you can almost talk yourself into it. Where like I went with the over as well, guys. I have him at 10-7, but I was stunned looking back at this when I saw the Vegas Insider win total, because I was like stunned that they think that they're gonna win 9 or 10. If it's 9.5, that's where they're at. And this is a loaded roster. The team is so deep that I just couldn't figure out how. I went doomsday. I felt like 10-7 was like if everything went wrong this year, the Dolphins still went 10-7.
I mean, it already started too.
Yeah, dude, that's true. Things are starting to go pretty poorly right now. But I mean, if Tua stays healthy and he plays like he did that first month of the year, they might not only win the division, they could represent the AFC in the Super Bowl. Like, this is a very talented roster, so I don't disagree with you guys on that part at all. I do have the over.
Added more to that running game too with that third round pick. How do you pronounce his last name?
A chain, I think. Devin a chain.
Devin
I'm so happy Wally's on this podcast for the pronunciation.
Well, see, that's the only one I didn't check, but I'm going off of like watching Texas A&M last year, and I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
And only you watched Texas A&M last year, so
Again, another reason why we're thankful you're here.
Well, I mean, the only other thing that Steven, you brought up, I think it was you, maybe it was David, I apologize if I mixed it up, but Vic Fangio being there when you lose Leslie Frazier in Buffalo, it feels like a recipe that could favor you guys. I know I'm a little lower on them than you, but we'll see how it goes. 10-7, I have the over. Steven, speaking of you, honestly, this is perfect for both of you. I don't know who I want to go to first, but I'll go to Steven, out of respect. The New York Jets, total 9.5. Last year they did go 8-9. They did add, as you would know, Aaron Rodgers. We've been talking about that like the whole football world has been all offseason. He brought in his Packers wide receivers, Randall Cobb and Allen Lazard, and even safety Adrian Amos came over. They lost Elijah Mitchell and Mike White, so nothing you feel like is like groundbreaking. So, Steven, it feels natural that the over is the heavy play here. Do you go with that?
I can't find on the schedule where they wouldn't be a 10-win team here. So I'm taking the over with New York. I mean, they opened it up pretty treacherous, right? You got, against Buffalo, in Dallas, against New England, against Kansas City, at Denver, which everyone's going to watch that. That's the bucket hat game. And then you're playing against Philly. This is all before your week 7 bye. I mean, after it's kind of hit or miss. You have Chargers, but then the Raiders. You have the Bills and Dolphins, but then the Falcons and the Texans. Then the Dolphins again, but then you have the Washington Commanders. But then you ended up with the Browns and the Patriots. So really depending on how that's looking, how those teams are playing down the stretch, maybe this could be a little bit more. But I have them at a 13-14 record, or 13-4 record, excuse me. Let's see what the offensive line play is going to look like. That's the biggest question mark out of here. There's reports of A-Rod frustrated with the offensive line play, not really looking that good in preseason, in practice, joint practices, whatever it may be. Finally, a thorn in the Tiger's paw. It's all I can really kind of hope for the rest of the season here. But other than that, every other positional group they can check boxes. Garrett Wilson will have a great year. They got Dalvin Cook and Breece Hall in that running back room now. That defense is loaded. Man. 13-4 and hitting the over, unfortunately, and winning the division.
Look, Aaron Rodgers has to complain about something. It wouldn't be another fucking season unless he had something that would be his backup for why he can't win a Super Bowl. But I'm with you. I think the over. I don't see how this team doesn't win. Every time I ran through the Jets schedule, it's like they start 2-3 or 1-3 or whatever, and then the only 2 games I really am confident they lose is when they go at Buffalo, at Miami, and I have them at 12-5 because of that. But it's weird because I had them starting so poorly, and then it's just like the season gets a little bit easier as it goes on for them. It's just this is a wild division with great teams. I just think that the Dolphins, Jets, and Bills are all guarantees to win 10 plus games. Provided their quarterbacks, the pinnacle of their franchises, stay healthy. But I have all those teams winning 11 plus games, 12 plus games actually.
It's kind of the way you guys are talking about it. It reminds me of the AFC version of San Francisco last year. People at home might forget they were 3-4 before they did not lose a game until the NFC title game after that. It's a brutal start, but if they start hot, I mean, they'll win the division. That's how it'll be. If they start hot, they will win the division. But I will say I have the over. I have them 13-4, just like you guys. David, you and I were also texting on Sunday about this exercise of picking all these games. We pick 272 games for all 32 teams. And no matter how you finish, there's always something that makes you feel a little reserved. And the Jets at 13 wins really made me nervous because I do feel like Aaron Rodgers has played the best football of his career. He is older. He is regressing. So to have them at 13 wins scared the shit out of me. But I also at the same time can't help but think about there's no holes on this roster. He's bitching about the O-line. I love it. I'm going to be honest. I don't think that that's going to be a concern long term. And after that, it's like unless Rodgers falls off a cliff in terms of his play, I just love this defense. I think Robert Saleh will have them ready to play. Gang Green to me is back. This is Rex Ryan defense good. And if that's the case, they didn't have Aaron Rodgers play in 2009. So I'm taking them 13-4. I have them coming in second, but if they win this division, I wouldn't be shocked at all. But damn, I'm drinking the green Kool-Aid in a big way. New England, last team in the AFC East, their over-under is set at 7.5. Last year, they won 7 games. The key additions here are Bill O'Brien, a.k.a. the absence of Matt Patricia. James Robinson is there. You're going to have Juju in. We'll talk about him. And Mike Gesicki. They had a pretty good draft, at least as far as we're concerned. Christian Gonzalez fell really far to them. And then they even just picked up Zeke earlier today, like we were talking about. My thing is that I have them at 7-10. I do think the under's going to happen, and it's not their fault, really. I have them going 1-5 in division. The AFC East is a gauntlet. They're an average football team to me. It's just that the division is so disgustingly good, it doesn't really indicate how good the roster is. But I don't know. I do. The one thing I will say, and it worries me, I think this might be the Billy Goat's last season in New England, whether that be his choice or not. I hope I'm wrong. He deserves to break the win record in New England, and I hope that Robert Kraft doesn't make a change. It's just there's been a lot of smoke, guys. I'm really worried about that. But the New England Patriots, where are you guys at?
This is, you mentioned it before we were talking this weekend about things that make me scratch my head. The Patriots at 6-11 for me made me scratch my head. But I think they're going to be the biggest losers because I don't believe in their quarterback situation in this division. I have them losing all but one game in the division. And I think I have them stealing one from the Jets at home or something like that. But
yeah, they play in week 18. That's probably why.
It's exactly. It's like their defense will probably help them earn 5 of their 6 or 7 wins, but I just don't know how this team gets over 7.5. Right? I don't know how it gets to 8 wins or even 7 wins and a tie. It doesn't make. Every time I went through this 3 times, by the way, for everyone listening, and I literally finished up right as we were starting this podcast because every single time I went through, there were 2 or 3 teams that I just consistently had way below where I thought might actually happen. This is one of those scenarios, but then you look back on it, and I can't find 8 wins for them, so it's definitely under 7.5 for me.
So I actually took the over.
That a boy.
Took the over with the Patriots. I have them right at 8-9, so it's not like we're really all that far off from each other here. It sounds like 1 or 2 games. But no, to how Wally was kind of rounding them off, I really liked the additions that they made on the offensive side of the ball, mostly getting rid of Matt Patricia and adding Bill O'Brien as our offensive coordinator. That's not me putting a stamp on believing in Mac Jones either. I'm kind of in David's boat on that as well. But I'm relying on Bill Belichick's defense. We know what that offense could potentially look like. It's going to get closer to Mac Jones' Pro Bowl years rookie year than it was last year. But there's a lot of these toss-up games, right? They have the Commanders and the Chiefs. And we'll see what, we'll always see what that Steelers-Pats matchup is looking like defensively. It's always a toss-up with the Broncos and what they're going to look like. And they also have the Raiders on there. So there's a lot of opportunity for them to get easy wins, but then you have that division. You sprinkle in the Eagles, you sprinkle in the Chiefs. So it's going to be really difficult. And I don't see them pulling a surprise win, upset win out of here. But I can see them squeaking out, just being at that 8-9 area. And all those people are sweating that hook and hitting on the over, baby. I think you're muted, Walter.
Yeah, I definitely am muted. But what I was going to ask you is I have a bonus question just because we are high on the Jets and a little lower on the Patriots than usual. And sometimes like these historic things like come into play. The Jets have beat the Patriots twice since 2011. And both were in overtime. It's like they are owned. They truly are owned by the Patriots. Even last year, the Jets were significantly better and Zach Wilson happened. It's like, could that be what makes the difference? Could we find a way to see the Patriots winning? Like, just because it happens. They could beat the Jets 2 times because that's what occurs, and then Steven's right in the overhit.
But what would make me happiest is, you mentioned history. Nothing would make me happier than the Jets hype train ending up at Eagles Dream Team territory.
That would be funny. Let's be honest. That would be really funny.
Yeah, no, I would kind of enjoy that. I need 2 years of it though.
That's good, Steven. You deserve 2 years. We're
gonna flip it over to the NFC East now, where we're gonna start off with the Dallas Cowboys. They're over under set at 9.5. I'll start this one. I have them hitting 11 wins, and I really like this team this year. You guys know how much I've talked about them. Additions of Brandon Cooks. On the offensive side of the ball, Stephon Gilmore on the defensive side of the ball. You got Micah Parsons, you got Trey Diggs, kind of. I just like him a lot more with Steph on the other side. They do have a tough schedule. They do play 7 playoff teams here, including the Eagles, who they have to play twice within their division. But in my eyes, I think the rest of the division is pretty subpar, if I would even give them that much of a compliment. So I really like the Cowboys, what they've done this year. Overall, I don't think their schedule is really that crazy. I'd have to get it pulled up here. But I'm just lower on the rest of the teams in the division, which I really think is going to be what's going to put me on this seesaw. Give me the Cowboys over 11 wins, but not winning the division.
So I have them at over. I have them at 11-6, right? I think the key additions like the Gilmore. I actually think Brandon Cooks is a wildly sneaky addition to that offense. But I just think that I think they got sneakily better, but I actually think they end up worse than they did last year in terms of record. But I still think they're going to be a playoff team. I still have them at I no doubt 10 wins. No doubt the over. I do think they got slightly better on offense, and I'd be curious. But the thing that holds me back on defense is, sure, they got Stephon Gilmore, but similar to Aaron Rodgers, his prime is slightly behind him. And then I don't think, and I've mentioned this a couple weeks ago, but I don't think Diggs is an 11 turnover guy again. So I just think their defense, it doesn't fall off a cliff, but it takes a step back. And that might create one more loss than it did in the prior year. But I think they're an easy 10-win lock for sure.
David, going to what you started with, I couldn't agree more. The team sneakily got better all over. I feel like people just kind of will the Cowboys to suck and refuse to kind of face the facts sometimes. And I'm one of the biggest Ezekiel Elliott fans on earth. You guys know this. But where he was at last year held that team back at many times because Jerry Jones was cutting his nose off to spite his face and decided he had to be number one because he paid him like a number one. And Tony Pollard was the better back. Now, we talked about Deuce Vaughn earlier in Rapid Fire. I'm buying into this team. I swear I was a nuts hair away, guys, from actually picking the Cowboys to win the NFC East. But I cowered out at the last minute, and I did what I felt like it was a very Dallas Cowboy thing to do, where I had them losing in a heartbreaking fashion against Washington in Week 18, which gave the Eagles the NFC East. But I love this team. I could see him making a push. I think they could. Again, it's like what I said about the Dolphins. This is a team that, if things go right, they could represent the NFC in the Super Bowl. It's just, I'm not quite there. I need to see it. The Cowboys have a stigma around them now, and I can't shake it as much as I want to. I cannot shake it. The New York Football Giants, total set at 7.5. Last year went 9-7-1. Their key additions is what I guess basically retaining all of their megastars and a quarterback that thinks he's paid like one at least. They brought in Darren Waller through a trade with my Las Vegas Raiders. Otherwise, guys, not a lot changed with this team. Steven, I want to go to you first on this one. They grossly over-excelled last year. Do you expect a regression to the mean this year, or do you think that might have actually been who they were?
I'm expecting a little bit of a regression. I'm taking the under on here, and I have the Giants right at that 6-7 win mark here. If you go back, we never really talked about this because Minnesota had such a great record at one possession games. New York was right there behind them at like 10-3. So you always see how the following year they just always fall, in the favor, not in the favor of that team, right? The previous year. So I'm really not expecting Danny Dimes to make a leap or another leap here. This is like the 4th or 5th or 6th straight year we're looking for a leap with him. And we're just kind of holding on to, speaking about nut hair, we're just kind of holding on to the nut hair of Brian Daboll. Be like, remember what you did to Josh Allen. His progression each year. We're expecting that. Danny Dimes will never be Josh Allen. That's just not how it's going to look. And I just don't think that they still just didn't address a lot of their needs. Sure, you got Andrew Thomas paid. You had, you already got a tackle here last year. And then you added Kayvon Thibodeau on the defensive side of the ball. But I just don't understand what else you really did, right? And I just don't really have that much confidence on the offensive side of the ball. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice. Come on. I don't think lightning strikes twice here. Give me the under.
I'm right there with you. I except for I have them as I'm right there with you in the sense that Daniel Jones regresses. I don't even consider last season like a great season for him, but it was probably the peak of his career if I had to guess. I think he regresses this season, but I have them at the over at 8-9, and I don't know how I made it there for them, but I did.
But we're here.
And it's just kind of like they might get an addition by subtraction, right? Like, even though the wide receiver room's mediocre, they lost Kenny Golladay, so they actually picked up some talent somewhere, right? I think Darren Waller does make a difference for them, especially for Daniel Jones. Saquon Barkley's going to be the same animal he always has been when healthy. I don't know. I don't love this team. You could sell me on the under. You could sell me on 6 or 7 wins, but when I went through this again, I just always came out to 7 or 8 wins. So I'm just going to roll with 8 wins.
See, I have to go back to something that we all have said many times before, but Vegas always knows. And the fact that they had it at 7.5 kind of like made me feel good about the fact that I had them at the under at 6-11, because I just felt like everybody in the world that they overperformed last year. I still think Daniel Jones is average at best. The wide receiver room looks hideous still. I think it's a middle of the road offensive line, even with Andrew Thomas and Evan Neal. You need Darren Waller to be 2020 Darren Waller. And I just don't know if that's there anymore. Not even from the skill. It's just like he gets banged up all the time. You need him to basically be like a Travis Kelce for this team to give them a realistic shot to like make a push at anything. I mean, the defense is the only thing that makes me a little worried about this total, though, because there is promise there. It's a sneaky, fun pass rush with a ton of youth at DB, too. But I'm just not sold on the linebackers. It's kind of like how the Browns were at defensive tackle last year. That's a hole, and it's going to be a problem all year. I think this team, more than likely than any, I could abandon the take after a month if Brian Daboll actually has them ball out. I just don't see it. I'm with you, Steven. I'm with the under. I have it by a game and a half. Someone has to disappoint in this division, and I think it's probably them. The Eagles. E-A-G-L-E-S. Eagles. Total 11.5. Last year they went 14-3. They had a decently large offseason compared to everybody else just because a lot happened. DeAndre Swift came in with the trade. You brought in Rashad Penny. You draft Jalen Carter, who arguably is the most talented player in this recent draft class, with Nolan Smith, who might be the biggest freak in it. But then you also lose a million pieces. You lose Miles Sanders to the Panthers. You lose Isaac Seumalo to the Steelers. Javon Hargrave to the 49ers, who are their biggest competition in the NFC, it feels like. Linval Joseph's a free agent, and Dominican Sue might be done. TJ Edwards played like 90-some-odd percent of snaps last year. He's a bear. You lose Marcus Epps and Kazir White. You lose Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, Robert Quinn, Andre Dillard. They had a rough go. But you got to trust Howie Roseman. David, you're basically an Eagle fan, basically like I am. We are going to go around saying "use" together. 11.5. Over under.
Over. I have them at 13 wins, and the team is perfect on paper. Like, the line on both sides of the ball remains elite. If Hurts takes another step forwards,
Absolutely.
I mean, this is going to be an easy 13-win team. The first two times I went through this, I had them as 15 wins. So, like, I was I was biased towards them a little bit, and I almost had them going undefeated. I really considered it, but
That'd be a call.
Right.
That'd be a call.
But like, if there's a team to do it in this year's NFL, it's them. So I'm really high on this team, but I think 13 wins is about right. They probably only lose, one division game to the Cowboys at Dallas. But like, I love this team on paper, and I'm kind of excited for them, even though I really hate Philadelphia as a fan base across the board.
Yeah, they typically aren't the best fan base, but no, nailing the over on this. I mean, I can't find the losses, right? There's a lot of teams on here, one that will go over, where it's like we can't find the wins. I just can't find the losses. On paper, at least, here's at least 7 games of mismatches. You got Minnesota, Tampa Bay, 2 against Washington, 2 against New York and Arizona. Those are 7 mismatches right there, right? Did I even throw? I forgot to throw in the LA Rams in that discussion too.
And that's 8 wins right there.
But then they have a lot of. I did throw Arizona in there. That's cool. But then you have Seattle. That's kind of I'm going to give the Eagles there, depending on how Seattle's playing. But question marks with San Fran. You have against the Bills. You got the Dolphins at least once. So I don't think this schedule is overly hard, and they open up with the Patriots too, right? Like, hell of a team that you got to open up against on the defensive side of the ball. But imagine what New England's saying, like, we got to open up against these guys. So I just can't find the losses. I would argue that their defense is going to be better than last year simply because of what the front seven's already going to be looking like. And sure, you lose CJ Gardner-Johnson, but when your front seven looks like that, who cares what your cornerbacks are looking like, because the quarterback is never going to be able to get the ball off. Then offensive side of the ball, yeah, you lost a lineman, but who else? You gained 2 running backs that are arguably better than Miles Sanders already. Dude, it's unfair. It is unfair.
13-4. Take the over. It is unfair because I don't talk about not having a hole on a roster. You start looking at this team. I adore the offensive line, as all you long listening downers. I just decided that's what they are. Long listening downers out there know. Running back room got way better. You had 2 more first round front 4 pieces. Then you had Tyler Steen, who you lose Andre Dillard. Steen's another guy that can play pretty much anywhere on the offensive line. It's just like, I love what Howie Roseman does. I love how he orchestrates a team. He knows what it's about. I'm all in on this team. The only thing, if I'm going to play devil's advocate to us, there's an infinitesimal amount of my brain that wants to see Hurts do it again before the Kelly Green jerseys come in, because we all bought in way hard on Jalen. And that's not necessarily even like that we're wrong. It's just, we don't usually jump ship from this guy's not that great to he's elite in 20 games, and we made the jump. I want to see it one more time. If this under hits, it's because last year may have been something we can't really expect to happen all the time from Jalen Hurts. I mean, you can go back to his Alabama days. We've never seen him do something like that.
In fairness, too,
So,
in fairness to that point, is we thought Carson Wentz was something special, too. And then that 1 year ended, and suddenly he's the worst quarterback in the NFL. So I totally understand that point.
So, and that's just devil's advocate, because I am with you guys. I am taking the over. I believe in him. I believe in this team. And I do believe that they will be the first back-to-back NFC East champion since the Eagles did it themselves in 2003, 2004.
God damn, it's been that long.
Yes, it's one of my favorite stats to bring up every year because it's just fun. But the Washington Commanders are not fun, if that's what they're going to be called in the future.
Don't even belong in the same sentence.
No, they do not. The word great, bad, it's just like the Commanders they are the Commanders. They are. Washington is. And their total is 6.5. Last year, perfectly encapsulate what we were just saying. 8-1. Just perfect for them. They bring in Jake Brisket, Andrew Wiley, Emmanuel Forbes, which sneakily is one of my favorite cornerbacks in a long time coming out, but we'll talk about that in a bit. But they do lose their starting left guard, Andre Norwell, who is a Pro Bowler in his own right, and they lose their right guard, Trey Turner. So you're getting a lot of turnover at a very important part of your team. I'll jump with me just to get it out of the way, because I don't think we're going to talk Commanders very long. I have the under. I have them going 6-11. I love Jake Brisket. I just don't think he starts. I think it's Sam Howell's team, and I think it's a quiet ploy for them to say, either we find our guy or we're going to be bad enough to possibly get our guy next year. So we'll see if he ends up good. He played all right the other day, but it is preseason. The thing I'm most personally intrigued by is Chase Young. Does he live up to his college reputation finally, or does he trend towards the Clownies of the world? I selfishly hope he is great. I'm a Buckeye fan. I loved watching him. And I do think it's very possible, but I'm going to hold my breath because he has been disappointing for years now. But the other thing I wanted to note was, like I said, Emmanuel Forbes. He's a very unique cornerback prospect. He's light as a feather. Dude's built like a pencil. But the problem is he's got like an Ed Reed nose to the ball. Most pick sixes in history of college football. And the guy just, wherever the ball is, he's there. And a guy that size, you typically can't say that. I pray that he translates well. Everything from camp sounds good. But then again, everything this time of year sounds good from camp. What do you guys think about the Commanders?
Not great things. I have them at 4-12. You think it's Sam Howell's team. I think that Ron Rivera is going to be on the hot seat early on and will move to Jacoby Brissett.
That's a very fair
on.
rebuttal.
And I think Brissett will keep them in games, but ultimately I don't know how this team wins more than 6 games. I would hard crush the under. I have them at 4-12 or 4-13. What do I have them at? 4-12.
4-13. 4-12 5 years ago.
4-13.
4-13
I have them
now.
at 4-13. Sorry, I just 4 wins is what the kicker there, but they might be slightly better, but there's no way this team wins 7 games. There's just no way. I'm hard slapping the under on 6.5.
No, there's no bats. No, I'm taking the under. I'm taking the under on this. Just the opposite argument I was making with the Eagles. I can't find the wins here, right? You already have 2 games against Dallas and 2 games against Philly. And then you're going to add in a game with Buffalo, add in a game with Denver, the defense against a rookie quarterback, essentially. While we're talking about a defense against rookie quarterbacks, essentially, you have New England in there. We know what Bill Belichick's record are against those young quarterbacks. And then not also to include Seattle, Miami, San Fran, New York Jets, 3 or 4 playoff teams, and there's not including the 2 playoff teams you have to play twice a year. I just can't see where the wins are going to come. Love Ron Rivera. Can't wait till he's a defensive coordinator for the Green Bay Packers next year after he gets fired. And so
I like
Barry.
that.
Calling it now. Give me the under. I think it's point blank dry.
I mean, this is completely worthless to even bring up right now, but Ron Rivera as a defensive coordinator with the Packers feels right. That feels hot.
Right?
It kind of feels hot. Steven, I would be fired up for you if that happened.
Well, and actually what happened is Matt LaFleur is probably going to get fired, and then Ron Rivera is going to be the head coach, and then we'll get
Joe Barry promoted.
I think you get another. I don't think Matt LaFleur gets fired. I think you get at least another year with him.
Great. And that's going to bring us to another episode of Loss of Down. Make sure to comment, subscribe, and like us on our Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, or Loss of Down. Make sure to retweet our Twitter, _loss. Shout out to Abby Turner Creative, our one-stop shop marketing agency, as well as our one.
It's preseason for us too.
It's preseason, baby. Boys, any farewell thoughts, comments, concerns before heading out?
I will not be here next week. I will be on vacation with my family. So while we are introducing and previewing the AFC and NFC South, it will be David and Steven. I'll have my picks through them, but they're going to hold the fort down for us, so we should be fine. The only thing that I have to warn you is I will be on a ship, so God forbid I can't upload next week. There's a chance that we have back-to-back episodes coming out in 2 weeks, but I feel like a 90% confidence that I should be able to get it out. But if not, you guys understand where we're at. We'll have 2 coming out the following Monday. But otherwise, guys, thank you for picking me up next week.
Subtle
you guys are the
going
greatest.
On a cruise. It's fine. I will be on a ship.
Nobody said anything.
It's going to be on a floating Walmart. Worried about Wi-Fi.
I will be.
Yep.
I will be. And I look forward to it. Very much so. More sunburn 2 weeks from now.
Attaboy. No, you just get the base going. That's all you're doing.
You get me, Steven. Steven, you got me. Anything for you guys?
Thanks.
Perfect. On that note, we love you guys. George Pickens is a Hall of Famer.
Get fucked.
Yep, first ballot, baby.